Hello and welcome to the third of the Rouvy Real Spring Classics. I'm your host, Kira McVitie.
And I'm Jacob Hennessy, professional cyclist for Canyon DHB.
So we are super excited to be bringing you the third in the Real Spring Classics races. We have been commentating away on Mont Ventoux and Tuscany.
Yep.
So all sorts of races. And we are about to find out a little bit more about Rouvy. So let's see how it works. So if you are watching us on Instagram, we are currently also doing a YouTube stream and
YouTube and Facebook. So
stream.
If you have any questions and you want to see what we can see as well, you can hop over to Cycling Pulse's YouTube or Facebook and let us know.
Rich, as that video doesn't seem to have played. If you're the video about how to use Rouvy, we just sorry. I am here at home, currently in my kitchen, and I'm about to get on my indoor smart trainer and set up Rouvy. So let's go. So step number one, get yourself a bike, get yourself a smart trainer, and get yourself some cycling kit and get on that smart trainer and bike that you currently have. Step two is you're going to want to download the Rouvy AR app on your phone. I've just downloaded mine now. So I'm going to open up my phone, don't look at my password. Okay. Okay, so now I'm in the app. I've just signed in to my avatar, which is ginger_biscuit, obviously. This is my little character in the game. And then I press start. Now what it's going to do now, it's already connected up to my smart trainer at the minute. But you can connect your power sources, your heart rate, all that sort of thing. And then you're on your way. There I am. Off I go. Up North Applegate. Loving life. Massive.
And sorted. So also on Rouvy Racing, it's the augmented reality program, so you can ride a lot of real roads, and they have recently just uploaded the top 100 climbs in the UK. Everyone's sort of got that book for a Christmas present or a birthday present at some point in their life. So you can go along and start ticking off some of those climbs that you haven't already done, or just scout them out for when you actually go do the climb. I gave it a go the other day and did the Hoy 100, I think it was, the Sportif. It was along roads that I have actually raced in, I think it was in Tour de Yorkshire. And it is brutally hard. It is still a super tough game to play. So here we go. There you go.
Okay, and we're back. So that was really cool. I do love some of the British climbs. They're not necessarily as well known as your famous Alpine classic climbs, but still worth going and giving them a whirl.
I think they're a different kind of fun. They're just super steep.
Yes.
It does break up the turbo.
Yeah, definitely. I think what's amazing about Rouvy is that you can see all these different roads, experience them from the comfort of your own home. So let's talk about the start list today. We obviously have a hot race for first place overall. Currently tied are Jan Vastil and Jan Skarnitzel, the Battle of the Jans.
Battle of the Jans.
Some are calling it. I heard we actually have an interview from both of them. So shall we now cut to Jan Vastil's interview to hear how excited he is about this final?
The race in Italy was different than the stage up to Mont Ventoux, shorter and faster without any big climb. I know these roads around Scarlino because I was there a few times on training camp and I like this part of Italy. After the start, I tried to follow Jan Skarnitzel to our rear wheel. He pushed big numbers, but for me it was too much, and after a couple of kilometers I had to slow down a bit. I didn't have my best day and suffered a lot. Racing on the home trainer is even harder because you can stop pedaling in the downhills. I kept pushed and still finished on a good 4th place. I'm looking forward to the last stage. It will be a nice fight between me and Jan Skarnitzel for the Orebauer win. I will go full gas as always, and I hope spectators on the YouTube channel will enjoy the last exciting race.
Clearly, the adrenaline is pumping through his veins from his previous races. Obviously, on that sort of focus just before the big event. So we've now got also an interview from Jan Skarnitzel, the winner from the last race, and also I think he finished the top 10 in the Ventoux stage. So we've got an interview with him now.
Hello, to the first stage I decided to move my bike to the terrace of my apartment, and it was a good choice. I wanted to move in the first group, and I tried to attack in the middle of the race. All went really good, so I managed to win. I'm looking forward to the last stage. I rode the road during the training, so I know the track, and I expect a beautiful bike fight against Jan Vastil. I've been training the Rouvy application for several weeks, and it's really great. I plan to use it even further.
Okay, welcome back. Another great interview there from Jan Skarnitzel. The competition is really heating up, but I'm fed up of listening to all these guys racing bikes. Let's hear about some of the women absolutely smashing it. So first Brit, Louise Gibson, an icon, some might say. She got 10th on the previous 2 stages. And we actually managed to have a chat with her before today's live stream. So let's hear what she had.
Hi, I'm Louise. I'm one of the internationals. I ride and race road bikes. I discovered Rouvy about a week ago and then raced for the first time up Ventoux on Friday. And then again on Sunday in Tuscany in Italy. Both times have been full on. A lot of watts. Everyone's pushing so much power. It's seriously competitive. I thought the second race I'd take it a little bit easier, but I didn't. I'm too competitive, but it's super fun. Tonight racing again at 5 o'clock, back to France. It's super cool to be able to get to all these different places from the comfort of my home while I'm locked down during these difficult times. So yeah, I'm absolutely loving Rouvy. It's super fun. Check the app out if you haven't already. It's Rouvy, Rouvy. And maybe come and race 5 o'clock tonight. Wish me luck.
There you go. Awesome racing from Louise over the last couple of rounds. We've got a couple more notable mentions for today's race. We've got a lot of Czech pro mountain bikers taking part in this series. Super powerful guys, all really good at that sort of 1 hour key, top end power, really big watts per kilo, really high torque, especially for that Ventoux stage. That was crucial. We've got the likes of Andre Sink, former professional road rider as well, now taking part in the mountain biking, joining that sort of illustrious group of Czech pro riders from previous years.
Good word.
I know. The likes of Jaroslav Korhavi, who was obviously an absolute hitter back in the day. So we've also got Jan Skarnitzel, who we saw an interview for, and Jan Bastil, who was obviously psyched to be racing today.
The most excited interview I've ever seen, actually.
Almost unbearably excited he was. So we've got Martin Stoshek, Future Cycling Northwave, and Christian Heineck. These are really hard names to say, so if we're butchering them, we are terribly sorry, but they are tough for us to say. So Kira, if you want to carry on as well. We've also got Teresa Saskova, who we saw in the stream below us just before when she was racing, and she came third, I believe, on the Ventoux stage out of all of the women in like a very respectable time up that climb. And we also have Sam Yarosh, who was in the stream with us last time as well, who we managed to talk to.
So currently we are just waiting for our Instagram to connect to another professional mountain biker called Mira, who will also be riding today. We also have a few Brits on the start line. Louise Gibson, who we've mentioned previously, she's going to be lining up again. Her pink bike will be there also. And we have Joe Laverick from AG2R. So you actually know Joe personally, so I'll let you talk a little bit about him.
So Joe's another great British rider that's going to be taking part in this really sort of slight frame, more built for the climbs. So hopefully today will suit him. He'll hate me saying this because he's now going to have a bit of pressure on him. But Joe riding for the AG2R development squad. I knew him previously when he raced with the Madison Genesis team here in the UK. So best of luck to him today.
So let's talk a little bit about what course they're doing today. They are in the Provence-Alpes Côte d'Azur region, which is the southeast of France, and they are going to be taking on, I believe, 22 kilometres of pain. They are, what's the name of the course? I've just lost it.
Vils-sur-Azon. Doesn't off the tongue with an English accent.
We are butchering it for sure.
But yeah, like you say, 22k, it's 19 kilometres uphill, followed by a 3k downhill to the finish line. So it's going to be a weird one because we've seen a lot of people fading just towards the top of the climbs and dropping off, but this may be one of those days where you can actually catch back up on the descent and really try and push home the power.
So the 2% average gradient over this 20-something kilometre race doesn't really do it justice because it's getting to points of around 6% on some of the climbs. The first 4k up to the first split time check banner looks like it's going to be a decisive moment for everyone.
Yeah, it's definitely the most consistent gradient to the first 4k. It's more or less one of those sort of coast roads that does gradually climb up, but it consistently climbs for the 19k before descending down to the finish. Like we say, it's kicking up maximum really 6%, but we're going to be looking at someone who can put out the power and also sustain a bit of pain. It's not really one for the sprinters or one of the units.
And looking at the route record, the course record at the moment, the best time ever completed on this route as part of Rouvy has been 38 minutes 32 seconds for the 22.2 kilometres or 13.8 miles, depending on which part of the globe you're tuning in from. That was set by Stein Acker, riding at 5.44 watts per kilos on average for the whole distance. That's a pretty hefty time. Can you just put 5.4 watts per kilo into context for people who maybe don't know so much about watts per kilo?
So watts per kilo is exactly what it says on the tin. It is the amount of watts that you are putting out per kilogram body weight. So for somebody of normal build, sort of a 70 to 75 kilo rider.
Sorry to interrupt. We are off. We have just started. And as you can see, they are all rolling out of the starting ramp.
In Vils-sur-Azon.
It is flat out at this point. We are currently following PDX_roller, who's putting out 3.2 watts per kilo. That only puts them in the middle of the pack. That's how hard this is at the minute. If we could just go to the front.
The front runners here are putting out a good 6 to 7, 8, even 9 watts per kilo. Like I was saying, watts per kilo is what it says. Rider is 50 kilos, putting out 9 watts per kilo, punching out some serious numbers of 450 watt effort from the gun at 9 watts per kilo, which if you weigh that much and you put out that power, you up a climb. These sort of the people that are on today's stage are the people that can pace themselves a reasonable amount of watts per kilo, but it also needs to be a high power climb. This is going to be well over the 400 watt mark, we think, due to the fact that it isn't as severe gradient as Mont Ventoux.
So 400 watts, is this sustainable for the whole 22 kilometre distance? I don't think so, but at this point it is a shuffling. People are trying to find out where they stack up.
They're back again, so we've got Jan Vastil punching his way back up to the front with Andre Sink still sitting around the 7 watts per kilo mark, trying to pull themselves away from the group. Like we said, the first 4K of this circuit is consistently uphill around the 4% mark, around 5%. So it is really going to be biting, but we know Andre Sink from previously in the Vuelta a Andalucía finishing 9th place as a pro rider. So he definitely knows what he's doing, and he has been doing very consistently well on these Rouvy real spring racing.
And no surprise to see Jan Vastil leading the way at this point. He is currently our joint leader with Jan Skarnitzel, and it's all to play for because remember there is actually prize money for the top 3 overall on the GC.
Yeah, so the prize money now on the GC with you've got Jan Skarnitzel, Jan Vastil running at the front, battling out for that €270 prize pot of the 3-race GC that is up for grabs.
And don't forget as well, we have Martin Stoshek, who is in 3rd place. If the Jans come unstuck in this race, it could be Martin's day as well. So we shouldn't count him out at this point. Oh, crikey. I mean, we're following at the moment the leader, Verini Alfin. He's banging out well over 400 watts. Insane. So we're just watching at the minute Louise Gibson on her very nice pink bike. I do love a pink bike.
That is very nice. Yeah. Again, where is Louise Gibson in the standings? Louise Gibson, 2 10th place finishes, pushing around the 4-5 watts per kilo mark still on the Ventoux stage as well. So some super strong riding from her in those previous days. Jan Vastil still sitting around the 6 watts per kilo mark. And we are now on board with Dario.
Well, Andre Sink is moving up, as is Dario Giovini.
Giovini?
We're going to go with Giovini.
We're going to go with that. That sounds like a good estimate.
So we're following the front runners at the minute, but we believe there are 471 riders in this race. That's crazy.
That is.
This is the biggest race happening right now. So if you're watching us on Instagram, head over to Facebook and YouTube, Cycling Pulse, to see what we're actually commentating.
Again, we said before that this is going to be one for those sort of high power riders. Not necessarily a huge watts per kilo, but you would have to be punching out around the 5 watts per kilo mark. Joe Lavrak, that we spoke about earlier on, putting out the 6 watts per kilo at the minute.
Oof.
It looks like it's already hurting. They are 4 minutes in. It's sort of separating the group and just splitting it up nicely. But around 6 watts per kilo, 400 watts currently.
Oh.
We know that the course record for this current course that they are doing is around the 38-minute mark. We saw this last time with the race in Tuscany, and we were saying before that they did smash that course record by 5 minutes. So again, we'll be expecting around the 30 to, well, it's definitely going to be under 40 minutes this race. So it's going to be over the threshold that they can sustain for an hour, and it's just going to be almost a 40-minute FTP test.
And you can see that Joe Laverick is really giving it the beans, mouth agape. Oh, he doesn't look that happy, does he, at the minute? He is suffering away, as he should be, putting out 400 and something watts.
6 watts per kilo, 400 watts.
Oh, I don't fancy it, me. I reckon I could hold 400 watts maybe for 30 seconds. Maybe 40 if I was like, really good day, sun was shining, wind was behind me. I don't think that changes your power actually, but We can dream.
So if you have any questions on Instagram, Facebook or YouTube, we are trying to get round to answering them. So just let us know if you have any questions for myself or for Kira, and we will try to answer them.
There was a question actually, someone asked on Instagram, what Zwift event are we talking about? We ain't talking about no Zwift. We are on Rouvy. Rouvy is an augmented cycling app program. You basically get an app on your phone, have it on your laptop, and you can follow along with real roads, real life footage with your little avatar and connect it to your smart trainer if you have a smart trainer. But also you can just follow along on a normal indoor trainer. And yeah, that's Rouvy. You can actually, that leads me on brilliantly to the point that you can get 30 days free on Rouvy by going to www.race.rouvy. 30-day free subscription. Why wouldn't you give it a go?
Yeah, and then you can go off and start ticking off some of those climbs on the bucket
you've
list.
actually been doing some of the routes.
So I did my first ever race on this race. I say race. I did it on my own, but I was racing myself because I have previously done those climbs. So I was trying just to see how hard I could go over those climbs. It's quite nice because it is just, you can click on it and give it a go and see what you reckon, and it's a really, really good app.
So at the beginning when we first started, we touched a little bit on watts per kilo and what that actually means. Would you be able to sort of go into that a little bit more, talk about different power profiles for different ability levels and what that kind of means?
So we're talking a lot about watts per kilo and things like this on here, but it is very much blurred for some people. You've got sort of your sprinters who typically be your high 1 to 5 minute power people, with also that really high 10 to 15 second power output. Normally a bit heavier built, a bit bigger. And again, those people will tend to have a slightly lower FTP versus somebody like a TT rider or a climber, somebody who can really sort of put a consistent amount of their, like a lot of their power or their scope for ability is based around that 20 to 40 minute mark. You've got your climbers who will tend to be able to put out a high percentage of that FTP, which is your maximum hour power. They'll be able to put out a high percentage of that consistently over a day.
So how would you say your power profile stacks up in the whole?
Mine, I'm definitely more lenient towards a sprinter than a climber. I can time trial, but I've never really had to. It's always been more or less like one of those sort of races that just blows apart.
You accidentally time trial.
Yeah,
you're
either
in
it or you're not, and then it's like a case of chase back to the front.
Sorry to interrupt, we've just gone through the first time check. Dario Giovini leading through there with 8 minutes and 21 seconds, followed just behind him by Jan Skarnitzel and then Jan Vastil. The race of the Jans is on. There's only 1 second between them. And if you're just joining us, the Jan Vastil and Jan Skarnitzel are currently competing for the overall. They're both drawing on that.
Just to give this a little bit of context, this race, Dario Giovini, I think that's how we're pronouncing it.
Giovini.
It's
an I.
I thought it was,
okay. It's an I, yeah.
I thought it was a L. Anyway, so.
Oh no, it is an L.
It is an L. It's a Giovini.
And I've got my glasses on.
So he's gone through that first time check in a time of 8 minutes 21, which is 40 seconds faster than the course record over the first. This is only over 4.7k. So to take 40 seconds out of the current record, that's going some. I had somebody comment on here saying, have you ever done a race in Beverley? Yes, I have done races in Beverley. Beverley Town Centre Crit, and also I won Skipton, which is just around the corner from there. Just a bit of a brag.
Humble brag.
Humble brag right there.
Awesome. So we currently have everyone coming through split number 1, which comes 4.73 kilometres in. So it's all to play for still, very much so. So just going back to our conversation about watts per kilo, I think unfortunately my power profiles put me kind of as an overall average at all disciplines.
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades, master of none, which I think was potentially the reason that I wasn't a very good professional cyclist.
Yeah.
You know, but okay, I did a little bit, but
yeah.
I'm no Lizzie Deignan or something like that. So your power profile, you can change it through training, but I think
you've got
genetically you are predisposed to be one thing or another.
I don't think that's the right word, but I can't think what it is. So we're just going to go with that for now.
Yeah, you're conditioned.
Yeah.
One way or another.
You do tend to see a lot more of the sort of all-round type of rider nowadays performing better, because sprints are now less sprints than they used to be in pro racing. So sprints are now typically over a 2,000 metre climbing day, and that is the flat day in the race, because it has become slightly more extreme, and also the riders have become just better all round. So you get your riders like your Sagans, your Christophs, who are sprinters in their own right, but they're also somebody who can get over a serious climb if they have to, and if they really have to push themselves. Your years of the sort of Cipollinis and people like that has sort of passed, but it is now becoming the time trialists can sprint. You see a lot of like your Cancellara's running up there in the bunch sprints. I know that he doesn't ride now, but that sort of type of rider.
So currently, just looking at the screen, Dario Glavini, I swear it's an I. Sometimes I think it's an I and sometimes I think it's an L. Anyway, Giovini or Glavini, his name's Dario, either way. He is currently making a break for it. He's got about 18 minutes on Jan Skarnitzel, who is currently in second place.
Watts. Well over the 400 watt mark, sitting around the 400 to 420 watt mark. Dario Glavini here. He's pulled out a good solid 80 metres, which we've said before might change this sort of race, because all you have to do for the bigger riders is stay within touching distance over the top of this 19k climb to be in with a shout, as it is 3 kilometres downhill to the finish. And
Joe Laverick moves into third place. He's still punching out 5.8 watts per kilo.
Joe Laverick downplaying it before we went online. Downplaying his ability to do this, but he is absolutely smashing it. 390 watts. Well over the 5.5 watts per kilo mark there. Impressive.
This climbing lark seems to be something that he is thriving at the minute. Let's just hope he can keep it up.
Amazing.
Okay, so what's the worst type of race for you, Jake? Would it be something like this?
This would be awful. This would be horrible. I did a race. I did the Tour de l'Avenir a few years ago. The year I did it when Egan Bernal won, and one of the stages started 20k uphill from the start. And in the bike races, if you've done bike races before, you would know they do go off flat out from the gun, with people trying to get in the break and the bunch sort of following behind, not wanting to give them any sort of leeway. And when it starts up a climb like this one does, this one went from the gun straight uphill. That is just my least favourite thing in the world ever. I much prefer sort of races where they just sort of become progressively harder and then start to kick off in the final, or alternatively ones that have real focal points of a super high pressure sprint to this point and make it over a short climb.
But I would say you are more of a classic sprinter type, more towards that sort of.
Thank you for combing my ego.
Oh, you're a good sprint. Yeah.
Amazing.
So back to the race, we're following Jan Skarnitzel at the moment. He's in second place, over 6 watts per kilo. Just to explain 6 watts per kilo, because it's almost like this magical number, isn't it? People who can ride over 6 watts per kilo are probably professional bike riders.
Yeah.
Are we right?
Yes.
Yeah. And especially for extended periods of time. I think someone like Chris Froome, to put it into context, I believe that Giro d'Italia stage, if you remember it, the one where he was behind and then he attacked and he caught everyone, stage 19, he was punching out around 6.5 watts per kilo.
So you're
stage.
looking.
So just to give you an idea of
not for
massive
the whole stage,
that is.
Not for the whole stage.
For the climb.
For the climb.
But
sorry. To put it into context, people like Froome, like the Yates brothers, people like that, they are doing 6 watts per kilo to 6.5, 7 watts per kilo while they're riding flat out upper climb. 6 watts per kilo is sort of always been the golden number for climbers, to really be at the front of affairs when it's kicking off, especially over the longer duration climbs. If you can hold that for 20 minutes, you're doing something right. So
and they do it with a face like a rock, like you wouldn't be able to tell.
Face.
Yeah, just no emotion, just pure watts.
We are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, we are on YouTube. If you have any questions for us about Rouvy, about this race, about us in Perth, like as people,
Are you a nice person, Jake?
Jump ahead, just start asking us some questions, get involved, and let us know what you think of Rouvy.
So we've actually been playing around with Rouvy at home, and currently we're set up with a Wahoo Smart Trainer, which I think is really great. But Rouvy is an app that you can use with any type of trainer.
Yeah.
So what is any indoor cycling tips? That's what I was going to ask. Indoor training tips.
My tips for indoor, I would say the key thing to take away from indoor training is to get a big fan and plenty of water to hydrate. It's super hard when you're riding on the spot, because you do create a lot of heat. It's a lot of friction of muscle fibers and things like that, and you do really overheat.
Plus it's freezing here, so we got the heating on. Maybe turn the heating off.
But this is what I mean. So you need to really try and keep yourself cool. That is the main thing with indoor cycling. That is the easiest way to lose performance. But yeah, a good cooling system, and also just practicing riding on the turbo, because the more you ride on the turbo, the better you get at riding on the turbo.
So going back to the race, we're currently following Jan Skarnitzel, who's doing over 300 watts at the minute. But Joe Laverick is slowly pegging back the gap. He's in third place at the minute, and he's only 60 metres behind Jan Skarnitzel. That amount of distance must be hurting.
Yeah.
Because you can still see them.
It is also a good thing that he is there, because he is still within shouting distance, and he is also right behind him. So he has got someone to peg his effort against. He knows that he's got to stay with those guys if he wants to be in with a shout of winning this race. But we know that somebody like Jan Skarnitzel and also Jan Bastil, who's dropped down now to 5th place, can both do this sort of effort consistently, because they have proven this over the last.
So really impressive numbers there from Joe Laverick. I'm hoping that he can hear us in his little turbo pain cave. Go! So how many kilometres are we in at the minute? We're 17 minutes of racing done.
10k.
We're around 10k. So that means split number 2 is coming up at 12.56 kilometres in. The record for split 2 up to this point is 22 minutes, and it looks like they're on track to absolutely annihilate that.
They are going very, very. So we said previously that this is a 19-kilometre sort of climb through a valley. It's not a super steep climb. It's a couple of percent, really kicking up to 6% as a max, but an average of 2 for the whole stage. But it is a consistent gradient the whole way up. Nothing drastically steep and no real steep pitches, but it's really going to be taking its toll. And we are now 18 minutes in to this effort. It's really going to start to bite now.
So I believe it's at this point that we go past Les Gorges de la Nesque, which is a famous canyon in the Provence, Alps, Côte d'Azur region.
You can't tell that we researched this though, can you?
No, I actually have a really good fact. Do you want to hear my really good fact?
I'll hear you read it.
So in the Les Gorges de la Nesque, they had a project in the 19th century to build a railway all along the bottom of the gorge, but it eventually got abandoned, and the only road through the canyon is the D942, which opened in 1920, and that's what they're riding along today.
That's just amazing.
That is a great fact.
It is so good to know these facts off the top of your head.
I do love a good fun fact.
We are people of the world.
Yes, exactly. So looking at these riders, what would you say their FTP is at the front? I mean, they're comfortably holding well over 5 watts per kilo, tickling 6.
Yeah, so really the riders who are riding at the front of this race, a lot of them are professional mountain bike riders from the Czech Republic, as we mentioned previously at the start of the show. The likes of Jan Skarnitzel, Jan Bastil, people like this, the really, really good riders, I think will have an FTP of, again, it'll be over that sort of magic number of the 400 watt mark, somewhere around the 400 watt mark, especially at the size of these guys. They're not really huge, massive sprinters. They're not big, heavy units. So around 400 watts seems to be what they're riding at pretty consistently. So that's my best guess. That is my best guess.
And what's your best ever FTP?
My FTP varies because I try not to
depending on your mood, or
yeah, it does. But also, I try not to take too much from my 20-minute test because of the type of rider that I am. I try not to take too much info from my FTP tests because if I do a 20-minute test, I can do around the 440 watt, 435 watt mark, but that doesn't necessarily translate to my 1 hour power.
So we're just about to come up to split number 2 at 12.5 kilometres in. Dario Giovini leading with only an 80-metre gap at the minute to Jan Skarnitzel, and Joe Laverack in third place at the moment, only 40 or 50 metres behind second place. So it's really, everything is still to play for at this point. Other notable mentions in the top 10 are Jan Vastil, who is currently tying with Jan Skarnitzel overall. He's currently in fourth place, followed just behind him by Andre Sink, Christian Mountainbike, Robert Hula, Lucas Kopecky, Jan Schneeber and Peter Malan. They all sound like they're professional cyclists.
Yeah.
And
So
by the power they're putting out, they probably are.
Probably are. Again, Jan Vastil, maybe not on the best of form after the last 2 races and having gone so deep over the weekend, but he's still holding Andre Sink here around Andre Sink's still doing around the 350 mark. So Jan Vastil, 5.7 watts per kilo, again back up to around the 400 watt mark, as they're coming up to, they're well over halfway on this climb. Like we said before, it's 3k downhill, and the 3k downhill might actually throw a spanner in the works for some of the lighter climbers who are getting an advantage over this section and may play into the hands of some of the big mountain bikers that we actually have in this race.
Definitely.
The Jans.
The Jans, the Battle of the Jans. So just a quick update on where we are. They've just gone through the second time check in around 21 minutes. They're over a minute faster than the current Rouvy course record. Pretty impressive stuff.
Joe Laverack sitting there, sitting solid, looking like he's suffering.
Oh, he's
trying to play it cool, but we definitely know that he's suffering there. So
okay, lovely. So
still punching out around the 5.7 watts, 5 to 6 watts per kilo. That is huge power. 400 watts. 400 watts, for those of you who don't really have a power meter, 400 watts is a massive number. So your average club cyclist who goes out on the Sunday and does the calf rides, they'll be looking at around, for their FTP, around the 250 watt mark. Would be like a very good sort of effort. So to put it into perspective, these guys are doing nearly double that power. It's a massive difference.
And are probably lighter.
Probably lighter as well.
Oh, crazy.
That puts it into perspective how good these guys are, but how easy they make it look. That's what you notice when you see the bigger and better riders.
Talking about those club level cyclists, if they're watching this thinking, oh my God, I want to be able to do 400 watts, how would you suggest they go about improving their watts per kilograms?
So the best way to improve your watts per kilo is to improve your power. A lot of people really try and lose the weight, but although that is another key component of your, obviously, watts per kilo, you don't want to be jumping into it and trying to lose all this weight all at once. Losing weight should never be done, it's not something you try and smash out the park and just do in one hit. You definitely want to try and ease through the weight loss just start by eating better or more consistently, aiming for your performance versus weight. You don't want to be trying to lose weight, you just want to be eating to improve the performance that you do on the bike. If you can improve your power, when the weight starts to come off, hopefully the power will stay, and then therefore you've improved your watts per kilo. But you really want to just focus on having the big amounts of power, especially if you're a big build. If you're a small build, sometimes focus a little bit on the weight, but if you're a really big guy.
And the only way to build your power is through consistent focused training.
Yeah,
really.
Just consistency. It's not about smashing it out the park for 1 week. It's about doing 3 weeks to 4 weeks of consistent bike riding and not overtraining or killing yourself doing it.
But there's lots of resources on the interwebs if you want any more info on that. So we have just been following Louise. We've just cut to Joe Laverack. He is absolutely destroying himself, turning himself inside out.
Well within a shout here. He is right up at the front. He's only 200 metres off the lead, and we are now, I'm just trying to see how far we are up this climb. We are now 14.9 Ks up this climb. So they've got 5K left of climbing, which won't take them too much longer, and then it is downhill run to the finish. So this is going to be interesting.
Definitely.
Like we say,
who's your money on? It's really hard to call at this point. Dario, he's just off on his own, 150 metres ahead. But is it too soon?
I think Jan Skarnitzel's nailing it. He's at 160 metres behind our leader here. He is doing a lot more watts per kilo than our leader, but we saw how he raced on the Tuscan roads and he was absolutely smashing it. He is obviously one of those riders that can really put out the big power. So I think when it sort of flattens out and comes to a descent, I think he's going to be right at the front.
Definitely. So I think we will have a much clearer idea of who is going to win this battle once we reach the crest of this climb. At the minute, the climbers are in their element, but like you say, as we start to hit that descent, the riders who have the bigger power are going to start to benefit.
We've got a lot of people watching from all over the world actually now. We just had a message on Instagram from Mexico, so I'm not quite sure whereabouts in Mexico, but amazing.
Merida, Yucatan.
There you go. Amazing. So this
They're
is
asking
getting all
where
over.
we're from.
We are from the UK, so we are currently watching them race Rouvy, and they are racing through the French, where was it? It's the
Villes-sur-Auzon in the Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur region.
There you go. So we are watching this. This is on Rouvy Racing, which is an augmented reality training app, and it allows you to sort of, through the same way that you would look on a sort of Google Maps Street View, it allows you to see the course you are riding in real life from the company.
And just as we're speaking, Joe Laverack has moved into second place for a moment. He is currently
27 metres
jostling
for position for second place with Jan Skarnitzel. Joe Laverack punching well over. He's doing nearly 6 watts per kilo most of the way up this climb. Just kicking up a little bit in the section that they're on. This is a brilliant thing about Rouvy Racing that I found when I was using it. The map and the graph allows you to break down the climbs into smaller sections so you can see what percentage you're on and what's coming up, and it sort of allows you to pace your effort a little bit and know if you need to increase your effort just to get over a small steep bit if it's about to kick off downhill. So I think on this map, for instance, I think we'll see them really push on to get to the top of this climb first and try and carry that speed over to the last 3K.
It's a really interesting race between Joe Laverack and Jan Skarnitzel at the moment. Jan Skarnitzel is our virtual GC leader on the road currently. Jan Bastille and Jan Skarnitzel are currently tying for GC at the moment. But let's not count Jan Bastille out of this. He is only 200 metres or so behind, and anything can happen on that descent.
So, Kira, what are your tips for climbing? This is obviously a 19-kilometre climb to the top. It's a solid climb, but what are your best tips to improve?
I mean, I would say that pacing is everything. If you go too hard in the beginning, you are really going to even struggle to get up the climb at all. So, for me, I like to ride in my head, I guess, a negative split up it, and what I mean by that is the first half I'm always just saving that tiny bit, and then once I get to the second half I can just really start squeezing that effort out, and hopefully I'll have enough energy left by the time I get to those final couple of 100 meters. So that's my tip number 1. And tip number 2 is to have the correct gears. I've been stuck before with a massive chain ring thinking I'm really cool, but actually I should just keep that chainring for Belgium and no hills. So yeah.
We spoke about this before, but I have almost the opposite opinion to that, because I really feel that if I'm running a 30 cassette on the back, a lot of the time all that actually makes me do is ride slower. I ride the same cadence, but I just ride slower. So for me, a lot of the time it's better for me to run something like a 28 and be able to just, when it gets steep, just push on and just try and maintain the speed over the cadence.
We're gonna agree to disagree.
Yeah.
But I think perhaps because you are better at the shorter term power and low cadence stuff, that method works for you. But
Probably.
for me, I prefer to have a really good cadence and spin to win.
Yeah,
Don't you know?
exactly. So we are now coming up to 2 kilometres from the top of the climb. We are still looking at, we have a bit of a pause here, but Dario Glovin still leading by quite some way, but Joe Lavrak actually pulling back a huge amount towards the top of this climb. He's now within shouting distance of the lead, coming up to the top. Joe Lavrak punching well over 5.5 watts per kilo, 6 watts per kilo, 415 watts we're seeing for the leader.
So currently the standings are Dario Glovini, Joe Laverick in second, Jan Skarnitzel in third, Jan Bastille in fourth.
And fifth, Andre Sink.
So let's have a look at their, apparently Dario's only at 95% of his FTP. Don't know if that's true.
Cruising.
Maybe he put his FTP in wrong. We'll never know.
Yeah.
We'll never know. But
They have a new FTP after today.
I think he probably will. So we're just about to come up to split number 3.
Final split of the day.
Final split of the day before the finish.
They are doing this. We are now on board with Dario Glovini coming up towards this split. The split for the fastest time ever recorded up here was set 33 minutes 49, and that is the fastest split that we have up this climb. We are watching Dario Glovini well over. He was punching out 700 watts then. 700 watts. So he's obviously heard me saying about sprinting towards the top of the climb, and he's definitely listening to my advice, because he'd kick in to try and get over the top of the climb first and try and carry as much speed as he can onto that descent. He's just gone through that split now, 32.55. So
they're a minute ahead.
They have lost a little bit of time on what we were expecting over the top of that climb. However, they are still 1 minute in front of the com time.
So Joe Laverick coming across in second. He's only 11 seconds down. Jan Skarnitzel is 16 seconds down. Followed shortly.
This is what we said though, because Dario Glovini now gone over the top, and he had a small moment of a sit-up over the top where he kind of caught his breath, and Joe Laverick pushed on, sprinting over the top, and pulled back another 30 to 40 metres over the top of the climb.
Okay, so we are coming into the final stages of this race. Split number 3 comes at 18.65 kilometres in, and we are currently into the last 5K and onto the descent. Any tips for descending?
I would say the biggest tip that I've got for anyone trying to improve their descending is practice, but practice at something you consider to be a safe pace descending. So don't practice riding. You don't get better descending riding 100% of your descending speed. You get better at descending riding 80% of your descending speed, which makes it feel very safe. But what actually happens is the more you practice, and if you're consciously practicing at 80%, what will happen is your 80% becomes quicker. And you'll also become a lot more comfortable and less stressed when you're going down a descent. So you try, and the main thing with descending, I'd say, is to not tense up and not freak out that you're going too quickly or that it's not going to stop. And if you're practicing at that sort of high intensity of descending, what actually happens is your whole bike handling and everything just sort of smooths out, and you know that you're coming into a corner and what's going to happen. And I think that's my biggest tip. And also, the worst thing you can do is go 100%, crash, and then knock all your confidence, because descending is all about confidence, and you only build up the confidence by consistent practice.
So we've got a question on Facebook. Rob Vardman says, are heart rate monitors required for these racing? It would be cool to see that data. I don't see it on the screens.
We can't see it either, but we do think that
you can connect your heart rate up to it, but it's not a requirement for the races. The only requirement for this race is that you have a smart trainer.
Yeah.
But as you can see from the likes of Louise and Joe, they are trying really hard. They're at a maximal effort and coming into the last 4K of this race.
There we are. So Joe Lavrak still punching out well over 6 watts per kilo. So he's obviously just kicking hard on this descent, trying to maintain that speed. We have Dario Glavini, who has paced his effort perfectly. He's pulling out again at the front, but not by a lot. It's still definitely all to play for at the finish. 147 metres, 148 metres separating him and Joe Lavrak in second. Third place, Jan Skarnitzel. Jan Skarnitzel was joint leading the GC for this race series, and Jan Vastil right behind him in 4th place.
So if you're wondering what we mean by GC, we've actually done 3 of these races. They're called the Real Spring Classics, and there is an overall GC classification for the best in all 3 races. So if you win that, you get yourself a nice 270 euros. So I think that Jan Vastil or Jan Skarnitzel will be taking that home tonight. We don't know just yet. At the minute, Jan Skarnitzel is our virtual GC, I suppose, on the road.
Yeah. So we are coming into the final, or we are into the final kilometre now. So Joe Lavrak now pushing on towards the finish. I don't think he's going to make the catch, but he's definitely put in a valiant effort and he's going to finish second. He's only 19 years old, to give you a bit of context as well. But Dario Giovini, it looks like an I now. I'm sure it is an I. Dario Giovini is pushing on towards the finish, and we think that he's just going to take the win here. He's punching out nearly 10 watts per kilo coming into the finish. So he's clearly sprinting for the line, knowing that he's coming up to the finish. There you go. Believe that was him.
37 minutes and 33 seconds.
37 minutes.
Which breaks the course record by exactly 59 seconds.
There you go.
You should have sprinted a bit harder.
Sprint a bit harder, get the even minute, is what I say.
So everyone's coming through now.
And Skarnitzel coming up to the finish line as well. Kuzel. We're trying to see who is coming through the finish line. Jan Vastil now pushing on. 4th place. So he's put up a valiant fight against Jan Skarnitzel, but Jan Skarnitzel was too strong today.
Where's Joe Lavrak?
Joe's finished.
Finished?
Yeah, he was only a few seconds behind. So he is definitely finished, but we couldn't see.
We finished 15 seconds down.
There you go.
A really good effort, putting in over 10 seconds into 3rd place. So that's it. Jan Skarnitzel has taken the overall GC. He'll be £270 richer, wiser this afternoon. And who's just come through the line there?
We're trying to see if we can find Yana Pitchlikova as well, because Yana Pitchlikova has won. She won the race on Sunday. She won the race on Sunday, the race around Tuscany. She was the first female. She also came second on the Mont Ventoux stage, so incredible consistency. So we'd expect her to be up the front. Louise Gibson as well, the British rider who's racing on this now. We can see her on here giving it everything, and she is
head down, elbows out,
elbows out,
giving it beans.
Yeah, just got to make it to the finish, and try and get it all out by the end.
So let's see if we can find the 1st place woman on the road. We don't know who it is at the moment, but as you say, Yana Pitchlikova looking poised to take the women's GC.
Yeah. There we are.
Okay, excellent. Let's see if we have any more questions.
Any more questions? We've got a lot of love coming in for Joe right now, because 19 years old, British rider, managed to come second. He was asking at the start what it was all about and how hard it was going to be, and I said, just brace yourself, it is going to be so hard. So
he's just texted his mum to say he got second.
Yeah,
by the looks of things. I love you, Mum. Got second.
Super solid ride there.
Okay, excellent. We are currently following Christian MTB, who is a professional mountain bike rider for... Oh, we don't have his name on the list. Oh, yes, we do. Future Cycling North Wave.
So, yeah,
which is one of the professional
he was up there as well
riders.
in the Mont Ventoux stage, so obviously suited to these longer climbs, but finishing there, very solid 10th place.
So guys, if you're watching this and you want to get involved, you can do so for completely free for 30 days. You can sign up and have a go at Rouvy. All you have to do is go to race.rouvy.com. You get yourself a little code, enter your email, and you can ride 30 days for free. Jake and I have been using it at the minute to get through the quarantine, live our best quarantine life, really. So let's have a look if we can see Jana Pilchakova. Currently we're looking at Louise Gibson, absolutely smashing it out. Let's have a look.
I'm just trying to see if we can find who is leading. We've got a bit of a delay currently on our stream, so we can't see quite yet, but we have Luke.
That's Louise. We're following Louise Gibson. Could we have a look at Jana Pilchakova, pretty please?
Louise Gibson though, sitting around 141st position, but she's still punching out just over. She's doing 4.5 watts per kilo, so she's putting out 250 watts, which is a solid effort, solid effort. She's still on the climb. She has got another 2k left of the climb before you descend 3k to the finish, and I think that last 3k will be very welcomed.
Okay, so Jana Pilchakova, which is
JanaPichLikova.
Oh, she's not coming up.
She's not coming up apparently, but we are trying to see if she was taking part. But she was leading the GC, but perhaps we'll have a new leader.
Maybe.
We may have a new leader. You've got to be in it to win it. So
let's have a look if we can see the lead woman on the road. Don't know if it's possible to do that, but we can request these things.
Yeah, let's see if we can see them.
Currently we're following Louise Gibson, absolutely smashing it through.
There we are. So if you have any questions, we've noticed a few people still tuned in on... Ooh. And we are still live. We're trying to follow who is up there. Jan's up there. We are. No.
Okay, well, I think we should wrap it up because we can't find the leading lady.
So we are going to wrap it up now. But thank you very much for joining us. This is the Rouvy Spring Race Series. And if you want to get involved and try Rouvy out for yourself, just go on to race.rouvy.com. Enter your email address, and just down below it'll send you a link. Download the app, and then you can just get involved and try riding the roads around where you live. You can ride Stelvio, you can ride Ventoux, you can do the 100 climbs in the UK if you so wish, and start ticking off some of those big bucket list climbs. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. We've really enjoyed it. We hope you've enjoyed our commentary over these last 3 races. If you have any questions about Rouvy, the app, or anything else, leave a comment down below and we will get back to you. Awesome. Thanks so much. Bye.